You finish one thing, and instead of feeling accomplished, your mind immediately moves to the next thing that still needs to be done. You work hard, you carry a lot, you get things done, and somehow it still doesn't feel like enough. Maybe you've crossed things off your list all day, yet when your head finally hits the pillow at night, the only things you can think about are the things you didn't get done. Today, I want to talk about that feeling. The feeling that no matter how much you accomplish, you still feel behind, still feel inadequate, still feel like you should be doing more. Because many people live with this pressure every day without realizing where it came from. So if you've ever found yourself struggling to relax because there's always more to do, feeling guilty when you rest, focusing on what isn't finished instead of what you've completed, pushing yourself even when you're exhausted, feeling like your value depends on productivity, or believing everyone else is somehow doing better than you, this conversation may explain more than you realize. Welcome, everyone. I'm Janine Naus, your grief and trauma relief specialist, and this is another Healing Step session where we gently increase awareness around emotional patterns that many people have carried for years without fully understanding them. So today's topic is, why do I feel like I'm never doing enough? And I want to approach this gently because many people carrying this feeling are already being harder on themselves than anyone else ever could. And for many people, the feeling of never doing enough isn't really about productivity, it's about worth. Somewhere along the way, many people learn to connect their value to what they accomplished. Maybe praise came when you achieved something. Maybe you were expected to be responsible. Maybe you became the dependable one. Maybe you learned that being useful felt safer than having needs. So your nervous system adapted. It learned keep going, keep producing, keep helping, keep achieving. And over time, doing became more familiar than simply being. And the challenge is there is never an end point when your sense of worth is tied to accomplishment, because no achievement ever fully settles the deeper feeling underneath. And many people assume if I can just get caught up, then I'll finally relax. If I can just finish this project, then I'll feel better. If I can just get through this week, then I'll have peace. But often the feeling follows them because the issue isn't the task list, it's the internal pressure. And you may notice you accomplish something important, and within minutes, your mind has already moved to what still isn't done. You reached a goal and immediately raise the bar higher. You receive praise, but struggle to fully take it in. And over time, life begins feeling like an endless race with no finish line. And it's not because you're failing, but because your nervous system learned to stay focused on what still needs attention. And when that becomes automatic, it's difficult to experience satisfaction for very long. One thing many people don't realize is how exhausting it is to live under constant internal pressure. Because even when nobody else is demanding more from you, your inner voice may still be pushing. Work harder, do more, be better, don't slow down. You should have accomplished more by now. And eventually, rest can start feeling uncomfortable. Not because rest is wrong, but because your nervous system has become so accustomed to striving. And many high functioning adults experience this, and then from the outside, they appear successful, capable, responsible, and productive, but internally, they rarely feel finished. rarely feel caught up, rarely feel good enough. And this can quietly steal joy from moments that should feel meaningful. Because instead of experiencing the present moment, the mind stays focused on what still needs fixing, improving, or completing. And after years of this, many people become emotionally exhausted without understanding why. Healing often begins with a simple awareness, the awareness that enough is not always a moving target. Sometimes the target keeps moving because the nervous system never learned how to feel complete. And that isn't something to criticize yourself for, it's something to understand. One gentle practice that can help you is noticing when you dismiss your own accomplishments. Notice when you say, it wasn't that big of a deal. I should have done more. Anyone could have done that. And notice how quickly your mind moves past what you've actually done. Because many people spend years minimizing their own effort while magnifying their shortcomings. And slowly you can begin asking a different question. Not what still isn't done, but what have I already carried, handled, survived, learned, or accomplished today? And that question creates a different kind of awareness, one that allows your nervous system to recognize what is true instead of only focusing on what is missing. So today, I simply want you to notice something gently. When was the last time you allowed yourself to acknowledge everything you've already done? Not what still needs attention, not tomorrow's responsibilities, not next week's goals, but what you've already carried, already handled, already survived, already accomplished. Because many people spend so much time focusing on what remains unfinished, they never fully recognize the strength it took to get this far. See, awareness of this pattern matters because the feeling of never doing enough often has much less to do with productivity and much more to do with how we learn to measure our worth. And understanding that can begin changing the relationship you have with yourself. I want to thank you for spending this time with me today. And if this conversation resonated with you, feel free to share in the comments what part stood out to you the most. And if you'd like additional support and conversations like this, you're always welcome inside my Bridge to Healing community. I wish you all a beautiful rest of your day. Thank you for joining me. Bye-bye.